You know, the Institute for the Practice of Nonviolence here in Providence does some great work, but the boss had a little project that he may not have had on his desk, you know?
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You probably followed this a few weeks back, the continuation of the standoff with the Narragansett Indian tribe that has had a very public-private dispute. It's a public coverage, it's a private issue, internal more than private, I'd say, at this point. And the Narragansett Indian tribe has been part of the fabric of this community for a long time, for the better and for the controversial. When it came to the smoke shop issue and the raid with the state police years back under the discretion of Governor Kacheri and then Attorney General Patrick Lynch, and since they've been kind of out of the news. They've been struggling for a casino in the past and trying to carve out their own economic niche in this community, but have always been really a welcome part of the fabric of the community. But they've had some stuff going on, and it's gotten pretty tense, and there was worries about actual violence, within the tribe. Someone had to help calm the storm, so to speak, and it seems like cooler heads prevailed, and we're going to tell you that story tonight. Great to have you in on this Friday evening. Due to some scheduling and production matters here for Dan York State of Mind, this show, which is original for you tonight, was recorded on Tuesday, and so because of that, we do not have any thoughts on the issues of the day, because that would make me Karnak. Although there's plenty going on, I'm sure. So on Friday nights anyway, we tend to kick back a little bit and talk about things in depth. And so the Institute is important to the community, well past the project with the tribe, and so we'll get to that. Let me show you a couple of headlines here to remind you of the story. DohertyPR.com, tension grows over control of Narragansett Indian headquarters, and that is absolutely true. Nasty dispute erupts. That was the Journal's version of all of this. And then this gentleman was called in to see if he could help, as the headline says, diffuse the situation. Here's Eyewitness News coverage of the event.
Is over at the Narragansett Indian Tribal Headquarters in Charlestown. About 20 people who were in the building left late Monday night after extensive mediation talks.
We decided to leave the building. We were not ousted from the building.
Tribe members occupied the building for a week to protest the leadership of impeached Chief Sachem Matthew Thomas. While Thomas's opponents stayed inside, his supporters outside waited for them to come out, with police working to keep the peace.
It was a good 3-day process to try to get us to where we are today. And again, it's not to solve the problems internally. It's their internal sovereign issues. We simply wanted to mediate a peaceful resolution.
Tensions were very high. Emotions were very high.
The occupying party wanted the impeached chief to step down. They're concerned he spends too much time in Florida, where he has a home. During their sit-in, federal authorities seized documents and computers from the building, and the U.S. Department of the Interior stepped in to mediate.
These are the things that we went in to accomplish. A few of them we didn't, but we accomplished more than we set out to, and we are very, very pleased with the outcome.
All righty. Well, I'm glad they were pleased. I'm glad you were pleased, right? Or were you pleased?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
PJ is the now executive director of the Institute for the Study and Practice of Nonviolence, a place where you have been for a dozen years, correct?
Correct. Yep.
You're working
12 years.
with and for Tenny Gross for a lengthy period of time. He exited when? Last year?
October 15.
October 15. So
Yep.
it's been 15 months now. Incredible work that your place does.
Thank you.
No doubt. And I would like to, past the saga, talk about some of the work that you're doing, because you guys are always in the mood and the need for a little public light on the work that you're doing, because it's hard work in the streets, right? Yeah. We'll get a little background on you and the Institute coming up in a little bit. So what happened? One day you're just sitting in the office and you get a call from one of the local police chiefs to say, hey, can you get in here because we need some help?
It was actually Saturday, Christmas Eve. I was at home, actually got back from breakfast with my wife, and I got a call from the Providence Police Chief, Hugh Clements, and asked if I would speak to Chief Jeffrey Allen of the Charlestown Police Department about the standoff down on the tribal land. I said, sure, why not? This is what we do. So we exchanged numbers, and I talked to the chief, Chief Allen, for quite a bit, and he was asking for help, and he was going to get his help from wherever he could find it. He really, I think there hasn't been enough said about his commitment to making sure that this situation resolved peacefully.
And that was Chief Allen that you saw in that package, by the way. He's the guy that reached out to PJ. Go ahead.
And so we spoke for a little while, and then it was I needed to make some phone calls to check in with some other folks, and we did that. I did that, and then made the decision that I would like to try to help them resolve the situation. So I went down to the tribe, the building, around 2 o'clock on Saturday. Maybe a little later than that, actually, 2, 3 o'clock, and just began our process at the Institute, which is solving issues by the 6 steps of nonviolence. And so step 1 is gather information. So I met with someone from the group that was outside the building, and we chatted for a long time. I heard their issues, understood where their emotions were, and then proceeded to reach out to the group inside. And
well, why don't we do this before this is all riveting, and I want to get to this whole process. Executive summary. What's the beef that Matt Thomas wasn't spending enough time at the place? It's got to be deeper than that.
I will be 100% honest with you. Going into this, I hadn't followed it a lot. I knew that there were some people had taken over the building, but when I was preparing to go down too, I made the decision not to read a lot into it, because I felt like I didn't want to have any preconceived notions of what was going on, what the issues were, and it's a tribe matter, and they're on their way to solving that, and so I didn't look into it that much. There are
but now that
both
you've been
sides
through
have
it,
both sides have some legitimate issues. My understanding is that it's really around how money is being spent, and that's what, as much as I really kind of dug into it. My
Really?
objective the entire time was just, in my thought process, it was just to do what I was asked to do, which was help resolve the standoff peacefully. So I tried to keep a real.
That was the alpha and the omega of your mission.
That was it.
And so you stayed focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ask, or somebody asks for a bumper sticker reaction, meaning some kind of headline on what their dispute is, you say seems like a money issue?
Yeah, I mean that's what my understanding of the issue is that there's 2 groups that would like to see the tribe run in a certain way, and it revolves around funding and allocation of dollars and so forth.
So when you see that news package where I think it's Belanoka who was on that, who said, hey, listen, we got some things, we didn't get some things. Does the general public have an understanding as to what it is they think they got? Do you feel like it's our business? Talk to me about that.
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know if it's our business. I'll be honest with you. I think it's our business to make sure and to help them when they request it and they ask for it. I think, like you said in your opening, that they're part of the community, and they're a very proud group, and have a lot of. They care for They very much care for their people. And I think it was.
If I brought them in, and we may follow up, do you think they'd be open publicly about what the issues are, or did you feel like it was the sovereign nature of the tribe made the actual nuances of the argument proprietary?
No, I don't. I'm not going to speak for them. I think both sides were very vocal with me about issues, but I think I don't know if they would want to put it all out there, and that's their decision, and I think we have to respect that.
it's kind of fascinating in a way that you were able to kind of unwind tension. Is that correct?
Yeah. I
And
would
not
say that.
really get into their stuff.
Right.
It's almost
It's not my place.
It's almost magical in a sense, because it seems like the stuff is what you got to resolve in order to unwind the tension.
Yeah, I think when we got both parties in the room, a representative from each group in the room, you know, my job, what I thought my job was to, and it was to kind of lay out where the tensions were and the emotions are right now, and really address the safety concerns. And the group inside the building was very nervous about people from the outside coming in and trying to forcibly remove them. And the group on the outside was very angry that the building, which is the lifeblood of the tribe in terms of administration, was occupied, and there's a lot of business that happens in that building.
All right, you know what, hold that thought.
Yeah.
So we'll come back and we'll talk about the play-by-play of this a little bit. And then I just want to talk about what the Institute does, because they did great work, as I think the evidence shows. Stay with us. So we continue to discuss this. This is really a riveting story on how the Narragansett Indian tribe was able to kind of take the steam out of the engine, or as PJ was able to help take the steam out of the engine with this tribe controversy. If you just tuned in, catch up with the show on Fox Providence so you can see the stories that turned out. But PJ got a call on Christmas Eve to say help from the Charlestown police chief, who had a situation with the Narragansett Indian tribe, thinking that there was a safety issue there. You are very diplomatic as you reflect on them. You continue to tell me on and off air that they are committed to themselves and their quality of life. And is the relationship amidst the tribe broken or healing?
I think currently it's probably, I'm hoping it's heading towards healing, but I think it's probably broken, and there's a lot of hurt people, a lot of feelings. We're hurt, and
most of Rhode Island, so the New England, sees the tribe as a unit, because they have had so many confrontational issues with government and with establishment, if you will. We'll never forget the raid. That was incredible on the smoke shop, and the fisticuffs with the state police. But, you know, Matt Thomas was on my radio program on a pretty regular basis when they were fighting for their casino, when they were fighting for their smoke shop, in their issues for legislation. Haven't seen him in quite some time. Chief, how you doing? Come on, talk to us about what's happening. We'll reach out to him. And those people who seem to be on the B side now, the A and the B side, if you will, of the power struggle that exists there, were always in lockstep. For the most part, at least for appearances. All organizations have their issues. So the public was trying to figure out what the heck is going on here, I guess. Your executive summary on this is, it seems like a money issue. Everything is always about money, right? Organization, what is it that their goal is right now? Do you know, is there a common goal amongst tribe members that you think resolves where they are?
I think the common goal is that both sides want the tribe to be strong and to be healthy, and they just have competing visions of how to proceed there.
Is it true, as the report indicated, that it has to do with time spent here in Rhode Island by Chief Thomas, who has got a Florida residence as well?
I honestly, I've heard that. You know, that was part of the arguments that's made. But I don't know.
All right,
I don't go into great detail about it.
I'm going to stop asking you these questions.
Thank you.
I mean, at some point, I have to go, duh, Danny, guess what? You purposely kept a limited scope on the nuances of the controversy, correct? Okay. How'd you do your thing? You were starting at the beginning. You went in and you got some tenets that you follow when it comes to the practice of nonviolence and crisis solving, and what happened?
So we sat down. We got a representative from each group. We sat down, and the first question that I asked was, you know, how do you want this to be resolved? And I said, there is a concern.
To each separately?
No,
Or together?
together in the room. how do you want this to be resolved? And both sides said, we don't want violence. We want this to be a peaceful resolution to this. So that was the starting point.
What was the indication that violence was a worry?
So there had been, what I was told was that there had been a lot of 911 calls made, and so Charlestown Police, the state police, were arriving quite often to all sorts of types of 911 calls. And so when that every time that happened, police came into the parking lot. It seemed like just the emotions were
911
rising.
from inside or outside the building?
I believe from inside the building.
Because they were worried about the
Yes.
other group
Correct.
taking over the building.
Correct.
Okay. So there was a physicality of the building at stake. The establishment of the leadership of the tribe had the building. The folks who are not liking the way things are going are trying to get into the building. And did they want to throw those people out? What was going on?
Yeah, and they wanted the building back, and they wanted to open it back up to operations and
Because
the
they had
business
shut
of the
it
tribe.
down?
The building was shut down. So when
So it
the
wasn't servicing the
correct
tribe.
when
Gotcha.
the occupation started, and I'm not quite clear on the timeline, but shortly after the occupying group took over the building, the power to the building was cut. Which also contributed to raising
And the
tensions.
occupying group is the establishment group, correct?
No.
It was the opposite.
Yes.
Ah, I get
Yes,
it.
yes.
Duh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now I understand.
Yes.
Got it all. So you went in, said, how do you want to resolve this? And they said, we don't want any violence. And you did then what?
We just started hammering out what would be the best solution for people to be able to leave the building and feel like that they have held on to something, that they can continue the process of getting their grievances heard. I mean, when people take action like this, it's because they feel like there's nothing else, that all their means have gone unanswered, or their requests have gone unanswered. So, and no one wanted, they didn't want to be there. They continuously said, we don't want to be in the building. We want to be home with our families, but they had such a strong belief that this was their leverage. And so we started to talk about how they could hold on to the building, hold on to that leverage, and really but leave the building at the same time. And I have to say, it took a long time to get through it, but
How many days?
started. So my role down there was until Monday at 11:30. So Saturday noontime till 11:30 Monday night.
Right. The 30-second version of what you think you accomplished there is what?
That both groups really want peace and want the best for their tribe, and are willing to sit down and talk it through and figure out their solutions. And I think we were able to provide that opportunity for that conversation to start.
Was it your personal skill or the program, or a combination of both, that you think helped this whole thing?
I think it's a combination of both. Having done this work at the Institute for 12 years and in all sorts of situations, so I think I've gained those kind of skills throughout the years. But I'm very much a believer in nonviolence and the practice of it and the practicality of it, and that's what I've been trained in. And so I really did lean on that.
You come across to me as a total empathetic figure. You find empathy with people.
I try.
But it's your thing, right? It's part of your nature.
Appreciate that.
Well, it's what oozes out of this whole situation. We come back. Let's talk about we'll just spend a couple minutes talking about what the Institute's doing in general, which is a lot of incredible work out there in the community. Stay with us. That's a question, PJ. When it comes to the practice of nonviolence and conflict resolution and all that kind of stuff, your ability to get into the Narragansett tribe and spend less time on the diligence of the controversy and more time on relationship and all of that, is that more common than not when it comes to conflict resolution?
Absolutely.
That the long-standing arguments aside, you try to find another platform on which people can deal with each other?
Yes and no. I mean, conflict resolution the way that we think about it is all relationship built and based. So the more you can get two people to sit down or to go back and forth sharing opinions and thoughts, the more likely you are to find common ground. So it's very much it's very much relationship based. And so just thinking about the first goal is to make sure is to be able to get people to a normal state where they can sit down and have a rational conversation or have some rational thoughts around how to resolve this. And when things get very emotional, people only care about what's happening to themselves. And so it's our role, and we see at the Institute, we see our role as trying to interject or intervene into situations where we can help parties come back down to a normal state where they can have some rational thoughts about how to solve their situations.
Well, the counterintuitive label for the work you do is that you're doing some. You're managing. You know what? I had a thought there, it just escaped me. It happens sometimes.
It happens.
Old age. You're on the street with some very violent stuff. You have gangs getting after each other. I mean, you've got these are people who are access to weapons and very upset, and you've got people with criminal records and all that kind of stuff. Many of whom, when they pass through your organization, come out on the other side as good citizens. I mean, there's incredible stories that you and Tanner Gross have been able to tell over the course of the years. So the violent nature of what could have happened at the tribe thing is almost like a yawner compared to some of the stuff that you have had to deal with. Correct?
No, I think it was equally. It was tense, and it was just fortunate that the goal for both sides was they wanted to resolve it peacefully. When some of our work on our day-to-day basis, that's not the thought.
Right. I guess that's what I was saying is that you knew instinctively the tribe wanted to make things better. You're dealing with people.
Well, I didn't know that until they said it. So, but you're right. I hear you.
Okay, well, you got the evidence fairly quickly, right? But you're going into situations where there are people who have absolutely no concept that they're going to resolve their conflicts, correct?
Correct, yeah. A lot of our situations have had homicides, death in the conflict. And once that occurs, it's very difficult for people to want to sit down or think about resolving things peacefully.
Well, I make this commitment to you. Come back soon to talk about some of the stuff that's happening in the community, because I didn't spend enough time on that. I want you to come on the radio too as well, so we have some longer time.
Be happy to.
But the executive summary message you have or the cliff note you have for the community about what the Institute is doing is what? What do you want the public to know about what you're doing every day?
I want them to know that nonviolence works. And it's not a quick solution, but it works. And as long as you have the desire to see the outcome, a peaceful outcome, nonviolence can solve a problem.
And anybody can call you?
Anybody.
Obviously. They called you from Charlestown to come. This is not just a inner city Providence-minded organization, correct?
We're all over the state. Our victim service department services families all over our state.
All right. We'll have that information for you on foxprovidence.com so that you know how to get in touch with the Institute. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
Thank
All right.
you.
I'll be right back. They do incredible work at that Institute. You really need to check them out. A lot of conflict resolution, a lot of stressful work. Inauguration week next week, we'll focus a lot on that. And by the way, Congressman David Cicilline will be here on Tuesday. We'll see you Monday on the radio as well on WPRO. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.